A case that could give the right to vote to more than 1 million Canadians living outside the country is being heard by the Supreme Court. A pair of expatriates living in the U.S. launched the case, arguing eligibility should hinge on citizenship rather than residency. Since 1993, anyone living outside Canada for more than 5 years lost the right to cast a ballot. But those rules weren't enforced until Stephen Harper's Conservatives took power. Actor Donald Sutherland lobbied against them in the 2015 election. The ban is estimated to affect at least 1 million expats. Semra Sevi is a PhD candidate with the research chair in electoral studies at the University of Montreal. Semra, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What do you make of this battle heading all the way to the Supreme Court?
Well, I think it's an interesting case. It certainly has been taking up a lot of news feeds as of recently. It is the right to vote is a fundamental right of citizenship that is protected by the Charter, and it doesn't. It's not based on residence. So it would be very interesting to see how the Supreme Court of Canada decides on this decision.
Well, what are the battle lines? What kind of legal arguments are both sides making?
Well, so this isn't a new legal case, right? So this started in 2011 when the two Canadians that you mentioned in the living and working in the United States launched the case because they realized that back in 2011 in the Canadian federal election, they weren't able to vote. They initially won their case in the Ontario Superior Court in 2014, but the government appealed that case. And in a split decision in 2015, the Ontario Court of Appeal ruled that the restrictions do indeed infringe on the rights of citizens, but the majority found that the violation was democratically justified because of a new argument that was based on the social contract narrative, which is theoretical in nature.
Now, you have studied the behavior of some of the voters, some of the expat voters. The Conservative government under Stephen Harper really put the foot down regarding this rule. But was that in their interest?
Yeah, so that's a bit of a complex question to answer, but I think one needs to start with looking at why the Conservative government decided in 2006 to enforce the rule. And essentially what happened back then is there was a controversial evacuation of thousands of Canadians in Lebanon. They were called the Canadians of Convenience because over 50,000 Canadians were in Lebanon when a conflict broke between Israel and Hezbollah missions based in Lebanon. The operation to evacuate them cost millions of dollars. And what ended up happening in that is that most of those citizens, the Lebanon citizens, returned back to Lebanon thereafter. So the Conservatives, to appease their base, had to enforce these rules, which they did. But in my own MA thesis, what I did is I looked at special ballot data. So I looked at the special ballot data from the 308 ridings in the 2008 and 2011 federal elections, and I found that the Conservative candidates received more of it than any other party. But what's important to note here is that the expat vote is lumped together with the prisoner and military members, so you can't really disentangle them and say that this is how expats vote, but this is how that group in particular votes.
A lot of votes there up for grabs, and we'll be watching that case as it goes to the Supreme Court. Semra Sevi in Montreal. Semra, thank you very much.
Thank you.